This is the Monday, July 6, 2011 meeting of the Lake Forest Committee of the Whole. And if we could take roll.
Honorable James Cowie.
Here.
Chairman Novitt.
Here.
Alderman Waldeck.
Here.
Alderman Moore absent. Alderman Pandeleon absent. Alderman Morsch.
Here.
Alderman Schoenheider.
Here.
Alderman Palmer.
Here.
Alderman Edelman.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
And thank you. On the agenda, the first item we have is the approval of the minutes from the May 3rd, 2011 committee meeting. Are there any corrections or comments on those meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And meeting minutes approved. The next item is discussion on the electric aggregation or alternative energy service thoughts in Lake Forest. And in the materials that were provided, there was brief discussion, I believe, from Bob and David Grumhouse. And Karina, do you get the pleasure of?
I'll just mention, as she's getting everything ready, the 3 items that are on your agenda for the committee of the whole this evening do not require any action. They're for information only, and this first one really is an issue that is almost a year away, and that if the council wants to move in this direction, we would have a referendum of the community, but that referendum couldn't be until the spring of 2012. But we felt that we wanted to get some direction and feedback from the city council if this was actually something that we should be considering. So, Karina, with that intro.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening, Chairman Novitt and committee members. Bob did a very nice job summarizing what we're going to be talking about. But I'm just going to provide a little bit of background for you. So what is electrical aggregation? The Illinois Power Agency Act regulates public utilities through the General Assembly and Illinois Commerce Commission. In 2009, Public Act 96-0176 amended the Illinois Power Agency Act by providing for the aggregation of electrical load by municipalities. So simply said, what that means is the municipality is now allowed to purchase electricity on behalf of the residents. So what does this mean for this evening's conversation? Bob mentioned that staff's hoping to just get a little bit further direction from you. We're hoping that we can discuss the pros and cons of potentially offering an alternative supply for residents, but as well as potentially for small commercial businesses. So how will this benefit the community? Well, right now everyone receives a ComEd bill. That's our only electric supplier. And by electrical aggregation, this will allow another energy supplier to potentially provide it to the residents. Not only that, but it provides choice. It could potentially even lower costs for the residents and these smaller businesses. So which municipalities have passed a referendum in Lake County? Well, recently, the Village of Fox River Grove passed the referendum by 67%, and the Village of Grays Lake passed the referendum by 80%. Of 20 other municipalities within the state of Illinois that have also passed a referendum on this, I've just listed a few for you on the screen. So if this is something that the Committee of the Whole would consider staff should continue pursuing, what's the process? So step 1 would be for the City Council to approve a resolution or an ordinance placing a referendum on the April 2012 ballot. After the City Council approves an ordinance, the City Council would select a municipal aggregator to create the referendum, notify the community, they would negotiate with suppliers, transition the residents, coordinate with utility, answer community questions, and manage the process. Step 3 would be residents voting. Step 4, if approved, the aggregator would negotiate the rates with national and regional suppliers. Step 5 would include if the rate is lower than ComEd, the aggregator would begin the transition to the residents. step 6 would include that the aggregator monitors the supplies and utility performance, and they would renegotiate the contract renewal. Typically, the contract with the aggregator would only be for about a year. Reason why it's not any longer than a year is because of the fact that the rates can fluctuate. So just to give you some perspective on a potential timeline for a referendum, if the council adopted the ordinance resolution, it could happen from summer or early fall. After the adoption of the ordinance, we would identify the aggregator, and that could be early fall, winter. It would be the aggregator that would work very closely with city staff for public relations as well as any referendum campaign. We would ensure that all of our paperwork be submitted to the county clerk by January 2012. The referendum would happen in April, and if it passed, the aggregator would again negotiate the costs in spring, maybe summer, and potential transition would be fall, winter, spring. And again, this is a very rough timeline should this be something that the committee is interested in further pursuing. At this time, do you have any questions for me?
So in order to get electrical aggregation, we have to go through electoral aggravation?
Yes. Yes.
Is there a hue and cry asking for this to happen?
I'm sorry.
Is there a hue and cry asking for this to happen? Are people dialing up City Hall asking that this be something that we provide?
Well, previous Alderman Grumhouse did bring this to our attention, and the email is within your packet. But I think the bigger question is city residents have begun receiving letters from electric suppliers. And we have started receiving calls as to what should we do. Simply said, we can't suggest what supplier they should go with, but that they need to do their due diligence, as well as we recommend that they go to the ComEd website to actually review some of the supplying or suppliers out there that are ICC approved. So has there been a huge outcry? There hasn't. However, this is something that is at the forefront of the municipalities within the state, and something we wanted to bring forward for you for a discussion, determine whether or not we want to proceed.
Great question. If the assumption is that the power is purchased from someone other than ComEd, who provides the service, i.e. during outages or normal service? Does ComEd still do that, or does a new provider do that?
Great question. It is ComEd, because all of the infrastructure is ComEd's.
They own the
Okay.
distribution network. So
They're the,
it's simply the supply side.
Okay,
they're the electrical aggravator.
got it.
Alderman Moore.
You have a couple of charges on your bill. One is a supply charge, and there's a distribution charge.
I might add the other, going back to your question, the other thing we're starting to notice is a lot of inquiries from other municipalities about who's thinking of doing this. So I think over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a lot more attention paid to this. And one of those things that if we're not doing it, residents will probably then start asking, well, you know, somebody else is doing this, how come not us?
And Karina, the second question, I'm sorry, is under Dave's email or memo in here, it says if we don't get lower rates, residents can opt out of the program. Would that opt-out be by individual household, or would it be opt-out by community?
It would be by individual households.
And
So a resident could, throughout this process, they would see the potential opt-out more than once.
Okay.
And that would be depending on what the aggregator as well as the city. Vic, you want to add?
I was going to say, actually, there's a dual opt-out. The city does not have, if we go through this process, the city does not have to sign the contract for the aggregate
That's where I was going
purchase
to.
of electricity. So that's one level. If the city does, as Karina said, any individual can also opt out. So there's both levels there that it's being reviewed.
Okay.
what would be, to get this on the ballot for a referendum, the cost that we're investing to have the freedom to negotiate with other companies?
I don't have a price point on that.
Approximate.
I've had an opportunity to talk with an aggregator, and they've said it's been a certain percentage. However, I don't know. I can get back to you on that.
Yeah.
I think it depends.
What I'm getting is just the nuts and bolts of, we have to get it on the ballot to get approved to go through this process. And there's a certain cost to get something on the ballot. And that's, just getting to the point where we could negotiate. I can't see.
I can give you a rough estimate. All it requires is a fairly preordained ordinance or resolution to call the question on the ballot, the filing of it. After that, the county clerk really administers it until the point of the actual election. If it is a successful referendum, then the city has the next step of whether or not we then want to implement that. That gives us the authority. Then the next step is the implementation. Again, we've already developed a series of ordinances that can be a good template if the city wishes to take the next step of priming itself to get into the aggregate market. And then the next step after that is actually to jump in the market, see what kind of prices you get, and then make the determination of whether to do it or not to do it.
So simply put, the cost is relatively nominal to get the freedom.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so I can't understand why we wouldn't want to do this or explore
Karina,
this.
what's the downside? Is there any?
From what I have researched, I have not heard a downside. But again, it's still very early on in the process.
Karina, is there any indication of what kind of proposed savings we might get if we went to another provider?
In speaking with the manager at Grays Lake, they are potentially seeing anywhere from a 10-15% savings. I've heard as high as 20%.
And any further discussion?
So you want us to continue to move forward with this? Sounds like, okay.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, right.
I would think the indication is to move forward to explore this and hopefully have further discussion.
Okay.
Thanks, Karina. Okay. I'm not sure if that's my phone, but yeah, we're going to
That
go.
was my phone, Alderman.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse
The
me.
sign. And we're going to go to item 4 on the agenda, which is a proposal to develop a bicycle master plan for the city. And Megan?
Thank you, Chairman Novitt, committee members. I'm here tonight, really before starting this project, to inform the council of an interesting project that has been presented to us and request authorization to move forward with a bicycle master plan for Lake Forest. The concept of bicycling as a means of transportation around the community came up at several of the ward meetings this year. And ideally, the bicycle master plan is a way to proactively identify safe bike routes for the community and call out areas that need improvement when it comes to bike safety. In recent years, several communities in the Chicagoland area have developed bike plans, and given the community interest and the current trends to encourage active transportation, it's really a good time to look at development of a bike plan for Lake Forest. It also comes at a good time for planning on the regional level. Lake County is working on creating a bike plan for the county, and recognizing that the city of Lake Forest already has several existing bike paths that pass through the city limits, the county has reached out to staff and has expressed an interest in working with Lake Forest to continue those connections. Right now, we are still in the very preliminary stages of this process. We have begun to identify a project team involving staff representation from engineering, parks, recreation, and forestry, public safety, community development. And with the authorization from the council, we'd like to gather the staff project team together and really determine the time frame and the process for this project. And just to give you a sense of what the process will entail, I anticipate this involving public participation opportunities and ultimately consideration by the Plan Commission to adopt this plan as part of an update to the city's comprehensive plan. I believe this is a great opportunity for the community and to really involve the public in a planning process. And I look forward to hearing your comments on a potential bike plan for Lake Forest. If you have to answer any questions.
And comments from council?
Right. I have a question. It talks about identifying them. Fine, so you identify a path along a road. What's the next step? Do you create a bike lane there? Do you mark it somehow?
This is really the planning and development phase of a bike plan, and that would entail identification of areas where bike connections are lacking, where they exist and can be strengthened, and then the next phase, a future phase, would be more of an implementation plan, identifying whether or not this planning process could also identify whether bike lanes are appropriate, whether off-road facilities are a better choice. And at this point, we don't have the answers to that. I think it has to unfold as we go through the process as to what would be appropriate. But certainly there are future phases for implementation, and it would be included as part of a capital improvements program.
I think it's a wonderful, fantastic, long-term potential asset for the community. More and more people are biking. Unlike jogging, it presents no impact exercise. We are in the midst of a bigger macro grid of bike trails, the Lake County Forest Preserve. Not too far west of us provides access all the way to the Wisconsin border, and I don't know how far south. So I would encourage you to put a team together and to keep in mind how could you come up with a master plan scheme that feeds into the existing bike paths that we have. I know from Middle Fork, Savannah, you can work your way out into the Lake County Forest Preserve. How you get to Middle Fork, Savannah is something that we should be thinking about, because there are some sidewalks, otherwise, absent the sidewalks, you have to ride on the street, and then the riding on the street is not, that's the least desirable. So I would encourage you, but keep in mind, trying to interconnect with all of the existing trails the most efficiently so that everybody can have access.
Thank you.
Where does the funding come from once we decide what we want to do?
For the planning phase, this is really a staff-led initiative, so it would be staff time that would be spent on planning and developing the plan. Once you're moving into implementation, that's really for a later phase, but grant opportunities are certainly out there. This is a popular means of getting grant funds, and certainly looking at budgeting for various improvements. Some improvements that could be proposed would have very little cost impact for the community.
And any further comment or thought? Is council, do we support going ahead with the formation of this planning team? And feedback generally, are we in support, or anyone not in support? Okay.
Hard to be against.
Yeah, I think the indication is, sure, let's go ahead.
Yeah, it's like puppies.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Megan.
4th of July fireworks, yes.
Well, that decided. Okay, next item on the agenda is the performance measure report, and this again is for information only. And Bob?
Yeah, I wanted to present to the City Council the first annual report that we have done. You might recall that at the start of the FY11 fiscal year, we implemented a performance management program to follow up on our core elective classification program. The information that you have in there really is a culmination of a lot of hard work by staff, not only identifying which measurements they wanted to begin looking at, but then also putting in place the opportunity to collect the data. In some departments, it was a lot easier than others. The relevance for this evening's discussion is really to, number one, answer any questions that you might have of anything that just immediately jumps out at you. But more importantly, after this evening, I'm going to ask the department heads to reach out to their liaison, their respective liaison, to see if you have any comments, any input, any thoughtful ideas about other measurements that we might be looking at. Keeping in mind, we're not just collecting data for the sake of collecting data. We're collecting data here to show us trends and to give us ideas as to, particularly as we roll back some services, what impact are they having on our clientele that we are serving. And so if there's other things that are out there that you think that we need to be focused on, that you're hearing from residents about, then we want to make sure that we implement those measurement standards going forward. We have learned and we've tweaked our system as we've gone forward. Some things we thought a year ago would be a good thing to measure didn't turn out that way, so we dumped that. When we had some change in staffing levels, they brought in some new ideas of things that they wanted to look at versus the old items. And you'll see that there's even a few that we're starting up in FY12 going forward as well. So it really is a dynamic process, and we want to make sure that it accurately reflects those areas of our budget that we think we really need to be focused on as we go forward, and making sure that we are allocating the resources to the highest priorities of the community. So we'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have, or otherwise we'll just make sure that the staff sometime in the next 30 to 45 days reaches out to you and has a conversation about your particular area of expertise.
I did have one question.
Sure.
Under the.
That's why all the staff is sitting in the audience, because they were anticipating there might be one or two.
I was wondering why you're so active this evening. This is for the police department, and most of the performance measurements I can understand, given the different departments. The police, I didn't understand the first one there being the crime index rating for Lake Forest. The average is 320.9, meaning number of incidents. Chief, I don't know if you want to expound on that a little bit.
It's the number of incidents related to the population.
Okay.
Why don't you go into a little further explanation of what an incident is? For our new aldermen that we have here.
When we're talking about that, the crime index, we have to send to the federal government every month our stats on 7 different crimes that occur in the community. Most of them we don't have to deal with because we're such a safe community. Things like murder, rape, car theft, robbery, things like that. So when we have a crime like that, we have to report it to the federal government. Those are the index crimes.
Okay. So I'd assume if we have an index, though, or an average is 320, and ours is this meaning that we had 38 or 37, we're 1/10 of the average of the United States?
Correct.
Okay, so that's a very good thing.
Very good.
Okay, all right.
That's exactly right.
You live in a very safe community.
That's right. Well, I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Don't want to misinterpret that.
But the other data in the last year, crimes against person and crime against property, I mean, if these stats are right, they've dropped dramatically.
That's
both
correct.
Categories, which is very reassuring, especially in the recession when you think that crime totals might go upward a bit.
That was one of the possibilities that we were looking at, Alderman, that because of the recession, crime would go up, and we found that that didn't occur in Lake Forest. I'm not saying it didn't occur other places, but it didn't occur here.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question I had on the statistics actually goes to Marla. Amazingly, with the recession, with the senior resource, I'm not sure if I saw this right, but the programs actually increased from 125 to 213 programs from 2010 to 2011, which is an amazing increase in programs, especially in a budget-challenged time. So whatever you guys are doing over there, you're being very productive. Not much cutback. Seems like a lot more effort.
because Marla's one that's in the midst of changing some of hers. So Marla, do you want to come forward and address Alderman Novitz's comments?
Actually, although I would love to take credit for a number that sounds like that, I'm not sure that that number is exactly right, although we did have an increase, but the 200, I wonder if there could be a typo somewhere. But anyway, we did increase the number. We've had, I think 2011 was very successful in terms of primarily finding revenue producing and coming out with a good bottom line. We are looking really carefully at which things are attracting a crowd and which things aren't, and really very much trying to look at new ideas that will cross the age levels. So we have some new things going into place actually this summer. In fact, I don't think that Councilman or Alderman Novitt has had a chance yet to pass it out to you, but each of you will be presented with a flyer for this Friday's program. We're doing a community health fair and have really tried to get the word out all over the community, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, as an opportunity to bring new people into the building. And mostly what we're going for is awareness. So we're looking to see how many people that we can bring in an age range a little bit younger than we were looking at last year. They were looking at trying to measure 75 and above, but because the baby boomers are increasing in such great numbers, we're really looking to see if we can start to grow the numbers between age 65 and 74. Because those folks who maybe 25 years ago might have thought of themselves as older, I think now I would say that anybody who is in a 65 to 74 just thinks of themselves as an advanced teenager, but basically much younger than before. So we're looking to bring something again that does not ignore the elders and still brings in that middle range. So I am right now in the process of getting more online promotion of things in addition to things in print. So that's one of our major goals: increase that population. And then one of the things, again, that we are looking at for transportation is because that is for those who are beyond that middle baby boomer age, transportation seems to be one of the things that is the most critical to people's independence. So we are doing a very close measure of the number of car and bus rides that we offer, and we have a program that enables people to remain in their own home by providing very inexpensive rides that get them to their most essential needs, which is to the grocery store, to the senior center, of course, and to some of the other shopping in the area, as well as doctor appointments and other kind of critical errands in the area.
And speaking of transportation, any idea of when the new bus is going to be available?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have an update. We had a couple of little slowdowns, but as of Friday, I was told the bus should be delivered to the bus company June 30th. It has to have the graphics put on and their basic kind of prep as we all go through when we pick up a new vehicle. And then once it leaves the bus company, Michael Thomas has informed me that the city has to create a birth certificate, as you will, for the bus before we actually start driving it. So at this point, we're thinking that it will be somewhere between probably July 11th and July 18th that we can actually get on the road with it. So looking forward to it.
So it might actually be in the Lake Forest Day Parade, or carrying some aldermen or something?
Yeah, we've been not wanting to make too many promises too soon, but I am a little concerned about anything before July 15th. So perhaps we'll keep in touch. Absolutely. Any other things I can answer for anyone?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did have two quick questions, maybe Bob for you, or maybe for Michael. Under the metrics for Public Works, it talks about, you've got some metrics in here relative to maintenance of vehicles, contractual costs for maintenance. Does that also include police and fire vehicles, or just Public Works vehicles? And if it doesn't, should we?
It actually does.
Okay.
It includes all the operating sections and departments in the city.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Mike. And then the other question I saw, under the fire metrics, we were gauging overtime for both special events as well as staff in the stations. Should we be looking at the same metrics for the police department as well?
We can certainly do that. We were tracking it specifically in the fire department because we were a couple people down, and we were right in that period of time where we didn't want to fill it because we knew the new pension laws were coming into play. So we backfilled it with a lot of overtime hours to cover that period of time. But we could certainly look at doing police as well.
Just one other quick one on fire. I wondered, Chief, if you could break out the second item there where it talks about total fire calls related to structure fires or emergency alarms or other, and just have one just for structure fires, because I understand that's extremely low. Is that correct? I mean, most
Yes,
of the
sir.
calls are not.
If you look at that far right section on the FY11, the 1289, that is obviously one column of calls. The one below that is the emergency calls, and then the 286, those are the non-emergent responses such as trouble alarms, supervisory alarms, elevator alarms. So all three of those together show the culmination of about 3,152 calls.
As far as structure, I mean, we have very few structure fires. Is that correct?
Correct. What we're going to do for FY12 is we're actually going to break it out for, and the way that we listed it, total EMS calls related to accident or paramedic emergency services, and then we're going to add annual total number of structure fires, and then in addition to that, we'll have another column which will be annual total cost of property lost due to structure fires.
Okay. Well, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
And any further discussion? And Bob, do you have further comment, or?
No, as I said, we will be getting in touch with each of you individually, so if you have any more thoughts or ideas, please share them with the respective department heads, because, again, this is a work in progress, and we hope that over time we're tying back budget requests to performance information that we are collecting and helping us make better decisions going forward.
Okay. Thanks. And next item on the agenda is opportunity for public comment to the Committee of the Whole. And is there any public comment?
Just comment on this meeting or?
Yeah, just this meeting. We will have a City Council meeting. That's coming up. And
I think you wanted to take the recycling. Maybe got time.
yeah, I was going to say, and as suggested, as long as we have some free time, maybe we could discuss a few items that are in the council agenda.
Sure.
And suggested by Jim was discussion of the recycling. Might be a good opportunity for council to get some questions out.
Here we go.
Mike?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Mayor, members of the Committee of the Whole. This evening, staff is going to be recommending the last item on the council agenda, award a bid for the purchase of our recycling carts. To begin with, the good news is that we have in fact received the grant from the state of Illinois. We received word late Friday afternoon that the city is there. Killed it.
Okay. Everything you now say, no one will care about.
They can read my lips. There you go.
Saving
There you go.
energy, so that's good.
So we received the grant. The state's fiscal year ends June 30th, so the timing of all this is very important. That is why we've been bringing the topic to you a couple times to walk you through it, hopefully get your buy-in and understand why we want to move to the carts. The state of Illinois asked that if at all possible that we, the city, invoice them by the end of the month for this amount of $100,000. We have $60,000 budgeted as well in our capital account, so The 160 will allow us to outfit half of the city this summer with carts. We will then again apply for the grant next winter, and hopefully, if we are lucky, be awarded a second grant and finish the rolling out of the recycling carts. We followed our traditional process of developing a specification and going out to bid. The recommendation this evening is not for low bid. The companies listed below, Schaefer Carts, are ones that did not meet specification. We have in front of you a sample cart. It's the one that we showed you at our last meeting. The cart, the reason we are recommending this cart is twofold. Number one, its overall weight. It weighs approximately 10 to 15% more than the other carts. In the wind, the number of times we're going to be picking that cart up with an automatic arm, it's important. It's important to have a heavy, sturdy cart, especially since we're going to be using these carts 10 to 12 years at least. Number two, there are wear rings on the bottom of the cart, so as people drag the carts, we don't want the carts to wear out on the bottom and therefore begin to leak. So this cart actually has 2 wear rings, again, what we placed in the specification. So for those 2 reasons, we're going to be recommending this evening that City Council award the bid to Schaefer Systems. Schaefer has told us that they produce approximately 1,000 carts per day. It's simply us getting onto their schedule. They're built down in North Carolina as well as out in California. If we receive approval tonight and order them tomorrow, we should begin to see them the 3rd week of June. We then will assemble them, put the axles, the wheels on, the lids on, and we're going to do some of it a PR campaign. We've got to get the word out to the residents that they can sign up for one of these. It will be first come, first serve. It will be free. We'll order an additional 350 that residents can purchase. If they would like a second one, they can buy the second one for $50, but the first one is free. The only other item that we asked to hopefully get some direction on is the actual lid. If you can see down in front here, the top of the lid, we can put a decal on it, if City Council so chooses, that states the items that we actually collect. We can put that decal on the outside, we can put it on the inside, or we can do nothing. It is up to the City Council's preference. The only other option is to have the actual materials that we collect actually in-molded into the top of the lid, but if we ever change our program, your lid is going to be the same way. If, for example, we stop collecting glass, which glass is an item that recyclers are not fond of. If at some point in the future we were to stop collecting glass, we'd have that on the cart. So the decal cost is an additional $4,200. It is not in the $159,000 that we're recommending. So it is an item that we'll follow your direction on. With that, I'll entertain any questions if you have any.
Go ahead.
Just a question relative to the decals.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you find that materials are in the recycle bins that are not appropriate to be recycled? I mean, is it a problem? Is it an issue?
It actually is a daily issue. From the standpoint, we'll leave what we refer to as door tags, door hangers. If a resident's put in, for example, a number 6 plastic that we do not collect, we'll leave it in the bin, put a door hanger on the door saying, sorry, we don't collect this. 5 or 6 a day. There's not that many, but it does happen every day. The guys come in from the routes, they hand in their sheets, and they've got a copy of the door tags that they've given out that day. So I understand, ever since we expanded the program in the fall of '08, we need to do a better job really getting out to the residents, letting them know exactly what we collect.
Couldn't you accomplish the same thing by giving cards that people could keep in their house or near them?
Absolutely, absolutely. We
Because I'm
can-
just thinking if you put it on the top, it's going to get weathered and beat off.
You're absolutely correct. We can put it on the inside, but you're right. If you put it on the outside, the weather, sure, absolutely. And we plan on sending a good amount of material out to the residents, dialogue, et cetera, to let them know, A, the carts are available, B, what we actually expect to see in the carts, hopefully.
I think there's one advantage of the decal on the top of the lid or somewhere on the lid is that if you have homeowner turnover, you're not sending out that information again and again and again or anything like that. So over time, as long as the decal holds up, you do have the reference point right there on the lid, which is handy in that regard.
You do. The only risk is if we were to ever change the materials that we recycle. But Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely correct. That leaves a permanent mark on either the outside of the lid or the inside that tells the homeowner exactly what we collect.
What are the communities that around us that are using these things? Are they using the bins made by this manufacturer?
They use a myriad of bins, but yes, we've contacted, for example, Des Plaines uses the Schaefer carts. Different towns will use different carts. A lot of the times, many of the times, the contractor is the one that supplies the cart. So when they are bidding a town, they typically will bid the cheapest cart because they want to win that contract. So Schaefer carts are absolutely used throughout the United States. They're a popular cart. We just found, when we got samples of each of the carts, that not having any cart background, that these are the ones that are the best built and are going to last us the longest.
So you're asking us to give you carte blanche?
I knew that was coming.
Now, as far as the state grant goes, congratulations on getting the state grant and a $100,000 contribution to about a $160,000 program. Yeah, it's fantastic. As we go to the other phases of the project, is it possible again to apply for additional funding from the state?
It is. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity is the department that is giving us the grant. Every time a garbage truck goes to a landfill, there's a handful of taxes and fees assessed. Included in one of those fees or taxes are dollars that come to this fund that they turn around and will support renewable energy recycling efforts throughout the state of Illinois. So that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from the state of Illinois general fund budget. So we, again, will try next winter. We'll write, it's like writing a thesis, an application to put in for a grant.
Yeah, which would be great if it would underwrite more. And just a couple questions, and inevitably I got some emails today regarding phasing in or residents using the new recycling bins. And there was some concern on driveways that might not be flat surface if they have to go with the program, or if special needs would allow them not to go wet.
A couple things that we're talking about. Number one, the goal is to phase out the bins over the next 12 to 18 months. We recognize approximately 3% of our stops have got very long driveways. And the way we're going to put this out to the residents is you've got to get this thing to the curb. If you can't get it to the curb, then we're going to have to allow you to continue to use your bins. The equipment that picks up these bins are different than the garbage scooters you see on the street. They're large trucks that have automatic arms. There's no way we can get down what we refer to as some of these private stops. So the residents, if they want a cart, have got to get it out to the curb. That being said, the other thing we're going to do through education is to say, you don't need to bring this to the curb every week. You can hold on to it for a week or two, and if once you fill it up, if it's empty nesters, they can bring it to the curb whenever they so choose. So to answer your question, those 3% of the stops, those I believe we're going to continue to have to collect via the bins. But everybody else, we want to switch to carts.
Okay, and will the city inform those people?
We will, yeah, we will, absolutely, and we're going to put it up on the registration form that you need to be able to get this to the curb. But again, the whole idea is to increase our overall recyclables by, we're hoping 15 to 20%. We've seen tipping fees go from approximately $38 a ton. We're now over $50 a ton. At the same time, we're receiving revenue on our recyclables, so it's a win-win on each side. We want to get it out of the waste stream. We want to get more in recyclables and pull in more revenue for the city. So,
I think we do need to do some more marketing.
yes.
I noticed in your performance numbers it's flat.
Right, I agree with you.
So I think we should really make some investment in marketing and awareness.
Okay, I agree with you. Thank you.
And again, that's a 3-year phase program.
We're hoping for 2. We're recommending purchasing 3,250 carts, which will set up half the town in addition to buying another 350. Those 350 will be if residents would like to purchase a second cart. So a total of 3,600 carts this evening. We'll come back hopefully again in a year and do the same thing all over again. And that may be the little more of a difficult challenge, because those will be the residents that didn't necessarily want a cart and sign up for one this summer. But we're going to say, sorry, we're phasing out the bins. It's time to go to a cart. So that'll be a little more challenging.
Any further discussion?
No, I just want to make a comment, just to thank you, Michael, for your diligence in sticking with this program. I know you and I have been talking about it for the last at least 5 years or so, and I'm glad to see us that we're getting to the point where we can have another opportunity to increase our recycling and have another means to do it. And I think it's a great opportunity, and you did a great job writing the grant to get us another $100,000, which is quite amazing in this economy, no matter where the fund comes from, that we could get more money. So I just want to thank you for all your efforts, and I think it's a step in the right direction. So,
I'll follow up with the mayor's comments. I also think, Michael, you made the right choice in getting the more durable cart. I mean, 10 to 12 years seems like a long time. I hope we can get that long out of most of these, but I think it was the right choice. And I think it's prudent to put the sticker on the cart. I would prefer to probably have it inside the lid. So to Alderman Palmer's comment, doesn't get weathered, doesn't get torn, looks better probably, but I think it's prudent to have that on there so people can always refer to it.
Okay, and if that's your pleasure, it's approximately $4,200 more for the 3,600 carts.
It's
So
worth it.
we would need to add that in the recommendation this evening.
good. We can do that at the council meeting.
Okay, one more
I
comment.
just want to add to what Don said. I agree wholeheartedly about the wise decision of going with a more durable cart. I think it's real smart. I also think it's important to have an easy-to-access page on the city website, besides the stick-em-on decal that you're talking about, because the recyclables are somewhat of a moving target over time, and we do need to educate the residents. We had this conversation earlier. There's only 3 of us in our household, my wife and I and a 12-year-old, and we use 4 bins. And I know after reading that notebook that half the town is against this, half the town is for. People are complaining, why do I need a 65-gallon drum? The truth of the matter is, I suspect those people aren't really recycling all the material that they can recycle. So we need to educate the public, because if 3 of us can fill up those, and I'm not drinking lots of beer and wine, but there's so much material every day, and more so that you can recycle. And like we discussed at the last city council meeting, get away from garbage pickup, other than, like food scraps and stuff, and really convert as much as possible to recycling. So I think a website page that's easy to access would be real important to go along with this.
And we will do that, absolutely, because looking at our webpage now, you really need to spend some time searching it to find it. So I agree with you. We need to make that much more accessible.
And following up on Mike's comment, is I think the public doesn't understand, or there's not enough appreciation that the recycling program actually generates money. So this is benefiting the community and actually kind of, lowering our tax outlay, or potentially creating more programs that, or more items that can be spent. So it's, the more recycling, it's better for all of us.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people just don't understand that.
Absolutely. We're on track this year to hopefully generate anywhere from $75,000 plus in revenue from the recyclables. So, and going back to your comment, Alderman Edelman, absolutely, our garbage guys, they see cardboard, junk mail, phone books, everything in the garbage every day. So there's a lot more that can come out of that waste stream. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any further comment? We'll discuss this further in council. Do we want to take a break now, or are there any other items that we could discuss?
The only other item, if you really want to take it up, would be the depot, downtown depot. There's 2 action items on the agenda, one with the Metro grant, one with the League of Union Pacific. Karina can touch on those briefly, or if you want to just do a quick Or do you want to break? It's up to you.
We've only got 5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes.
Why don't we just break? Why don't we break?
Yeah, might be time for a break. Okay, that being said, is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, June 6th meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Downstairs.